Hey everyone, this is going to be a video on lists. And so lists are a great data structure for organizing multiple things. And in Python, it's very easy to create a list. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a list of colors. Okay, and the way we create lists in Python is we use square brackets to enclose all of the things that we want to contain. Lists can contain any kind of data object, so things like ints, things like floats, things like strings. It can contain even more lists. It can contain dictionaries. It doesn't really matter, right? In general, it's good practice to keep all of the data types the same inside of the list, but there are no restrictions in Python. And so I have a list of colors, so let's go for red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. Okay, and so the items that are inside of a list are going to be separated by commas, right? And so we have a string called red, or a string of the characters red, and then another string separated by a comma, so on and so forth, right? And so when we look at lists, well, they're very useful for a lot of reasons, and so it's helpful to understand how they work. And so, if we take a look at the general structure of a list always contains two things which identify it. It contains the value, and then it also contains the index. Okay? And so the values that were inside of our previous list of colors, right? We had red, we had orange, we had yellow, we had green, blue, indigo, violet, so on and so forth, right? The index, right? This is just the computer's way of saying, okay, what is the position of the value? Okay, and the computer is going to be reading off the index in order to get the value out of a list, right? And so in Python, indices always start at 0, right? The very first item in a list is going to start at index 0, and then it goes up sequentially by 1, okay? So red would be located at position 0, the index 0. Orange would be located at index 1. Yellow would be located in index 2. Green, index 3. Blue, index 4. Okay. It's very important to know how lists are positioned because this is actually how you access the values that are inside of a list. And so if we take a look at our code, right, well, what we can do is if we print out colors and then 0, right, this is how we access the list, right? We put the list name and then in brackets right next to it, with its index, this is the value you want to access. Okay, so currently what this line of code is saying is access the value at index position 0 of the list colors. And if we take a look at our colors, that should be red. If we run that code, sorry, I'll put this over here. Clear that so that it looks better. If we run that code, we get the value red out of this list. If we wanted the index value for yellow, that would be 0, 1, 2, right? And so 2 would contain the value yellow. One common mistake that a lot of people make is that they think, oh, the first item, that has to be index 1, right? But in Python, all indices start at 0, and so index 1 actually refers to the second item in the list. All right. If we try to access a value that's outside of the indices, right? So currently our list contains 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 items, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? The indices only go up to 6. If we try to access something that's outside of the list, we will get an error. Okay. Well, right, that's how we access a list. Well, there's other things that we can do besides just access it. Well, we can actually modify what's inside of the list. Okay, so one way that we can modify an item in a list Let's say we didn't want red in the list. Let's say instead we wanted pink. What we can do is we can say, well, the value at index position 0, what we want that to be is pink. Okay, so what we do is, again, take the value, right? So this index position, and we can set it, assign it to the value of pink. If we print out the list colors, we'll see that indeed red has been replaced with pink. What if you didn't want to modify, but instead you wanted to add something to the list? Well, there is a method for doing that. That would be the append method. So we do colors.append, and let's say we wanted the color black in the list. Okay, if we print out the list colors, run that, we get that, hey, black is now at the end of the list. Okay, appending automatically adds things to the end of the list, and so you'll have to do some other stuff if you want to add it at certain positions. If you wanted to remove something from a list, there's another method for that. That would be the pop method, so colors.pop. Let's say we didn't want black in the list, right? If we print out colors, you'll find that we get an error because pop doesn't pop out the value that we want. It actually pops it out by the index. Okay, so the index of this list, right? If we want to remove black, well, that's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So if we pop out 7, index 7 will remove black from the list. All right. That should be a nice short introduction into lists. All right.